At 1:30, we'll call the meeting to order. We have everybody here but Ashley, and our student representative is here, along with everybody else. Welcome, everybody. And we have our agenda. Any additions to the agenda?
There are no additions.
Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the agenda? I move. I have a motion from Rick.
I'll second.
A second from Cheryl. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Carried.
Do we have to do roll call with Ashley?
Oh, yes, we do. Nope, she's not.
Ashley is not,
She's not on it.
Ashley is not in attendance.
Nope, she's not on. Then, anybody here for public comment? Okay. Then we're on the consent agenda. So everybody had the consent agenda out. With the minutes, Cheryl, maybe you could give us a summary of the treasurer's report?
It was a pretty short list this time. Everything was pretty much normal business. We got some virtual painting software in, I believe. That sounds like something I'd like to try out. And also the augmented reality welding software is in.
Yeah, so we actually have two new pieces of equipment. One is a virtual painter, and there's a group of middle school students that were using that today in the Innovation Center. So I stuck my head in there to see how that was going. And then the other one is a virtual welder, and Mr. Kapsner, I think, is actually using that right now with middle schoolers down in the shop area, getting them going on welding 101, so.
And I'm going with our COVID money spent, and our touchless faucets must almost all be in. That's a wonderful thing. Another thing that we don't have to touch, we pass on to each other. That was about it.
Okay. So do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion.
Motion from Thomas. I'll make a second from Bruce. Any further discussion?
We also have a new hire coming up in January. Matt, did you want to?
Yep, so Miranda Tice will be joining us January 4th. She will be filling Katie's position that was approved as resignation last month. Miranda has a variety of experiences that she's going to be bringing to us. And one of the things that we're really excited about is also her experience with some public relations, PR type stuff. So I think there's going to be some slight changes to maybe what that position all entails and stuff. But so, yeah, we're excited to have Miranda join us, and her first day of work will be January 4th.
Okay, on the consent agenda, we have a motion on the floor and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Carried. Matt, we'll go to communication items.
So I just have a couple of, just a reminder to start with. You all are registered for the MSBA conference. My understanding is 100% online as a virtual conference. I saw they were doing some advertisement as far as who keynote speakers were and the such. I haven't actually seen the virtual schedule as far as when everything is going to be rolled out. But just know that everybody's registered and you can all participate to whatever level you either want to or works with your schedule. Second of all, the COVID-19 situation, the district continues to monitor that on a hourly, daily, weekly basis. Our COVID team keeps meeting each Thursday. We have a regular meeting with Stearns County Public Health as well. I do believe we are going to get to the end of the calendar year in our current learning model with all students being on campus 2 days a week and all students being remote 3 days a week. I think there are some silver linings and maybe a little bit of positivity with as far as the case numbers statewide have seemed to start going down a little bit. They're still really high, but at the same time, they are lessening, which is good to see. And probably more importantly is if you look at the positivity rate that is being tracked as well, that is starting to decline a little bit as well. Obviously, the news has been filled with the vaccine rolling out and Minnesota receiving first doses. I know there's a schedule out there. I know there's conversation going on right now as far as potential school employees and where they're gonna fall in the level of priority in order to have access to that vaccine. I think some of that is still up in the air. I don't know that there's been any solid decisions stating when things will happen. We will continue to monitor that and do whatever we can to facilitate that vaccine if it becomes available and for employees that are interested in that. So it's ongoing. I wish I could say that we've had a day since March 18th of 2020 that we haven't talked or thought about COVID. But the reality is it pretty much is a daily topic for school districts right now. The other thing that I just want to make the board aware of, this time of year, as soon as we return after the holiday break, we're gonna start formal budgeting process. So be expecting more formal information about where things are gonna be with the budget and kind of an idea of modifications that the district may need to make moving forward. We talked about enrollment back in September, and obviously COVID-19 and the restrictions that we're operating with right now are impacting our enrollment and they're impacting statewide school enrollment. So, you know, it shouldn't be a surprise, but the recommendation is going to be coming to have some budget reductions. And we're going to need to address that. So that's on the horizon as soon as we get through the holidays here and off to January, we will get going more formally on that. The board, starting probably in February through May, you will probably see the 21-22 budget on just about every business meeting. Okay? Questions at all for me?
I have a question. I know the district has done like a big push on the free reduced lunch being that's been impacted with the free. Where are we at? Are we seeing an increase with the extra effort?
I would say we've gotten some increase and some movement on getting those forms completed and turned in. We would always like more, and I think there are families and individuals that certainly could get that filled out and stuff. They did also, as part of the special session yesterday, the one piece to my knowledge that did impact K-12 education was that they did extend the free reduced application window. Originally, today was the expiration date for those applications to come in. It's now been pushed to January 4th. I don't think that conversation in St. Paul though is done, because I still think it's proving extremely challenging right now to collect those applications when virtually no public school, at least that I'm aware of, is charging anything for meals. And so it's just been very, very challenging to get those in. Any other questions?
Okay, then we will move to our student representatives.
Just a few things that our fruit came in practically yesterday and it was this morning and everything has been delivered. It went very well with construction and stuff like that, so it's really happy with that.
So Paige, do you know how many cases of fruit you guys actually went through?
I don't know for cases, but items with the beef sticks, cheese and all that, I think we had 1,000 items.
You did.
So yeah, and then I was in one seller with 115 items.
Okay. So how does 1,000 items compare to previous years? Do you have any idea?
It was a little bit lower than last year with COVID and our numbers in our chapter and stuff. But in the past, we've had like 1,050 maybe.
Okay.
And it was a little bit lower this year, so, but yeah.
All right.
So, but with COVID, I thought we did pretty good with 1,000 items, so.
Excellent.
Okay. Next then would be any committee reports?
I don't think the group that met for the softball complex met. I don't know that there's a lot to report back from that. It was more just an introductory meeting. And they are on the calendar to meet again on December 21st. So that meeting will happen. I think after that December 21st meeting, there will be more for that group to maybe report back to the board. But really, it was just kind of the kickoff meeting and the next one will really be the content of it. Outside of that, though,
The technology,
do you want to talk anything about District Technology Committee?
I think the biggest thing that was discussed is that everybody's due for replacement computers in 2021. So they talked about moving our faculty, especially to laptops versus desktops, just so obviously they can be more mobile and bring it home. And then the other thing was the budget. I know there was some discussion, I don't think there's a decision made right now. It's on, I think, a 5-year cycle. And potentially, should that change if you move to laptops or not? Is that gonna impact it at all? Other than that, it was mostly time spent on talking about the different types of options for our teachers and staff, so. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so.
Okay, no old business, so we'll move right to new business. So we have the senior high school student representatives to discuss issues and events.
Welcome.
Welcome.
So my name is Michaela Roberg. I'm the event coordinator for Student Council. I'm in 11th grade. For event coordinator, we put together like school activities, the blood drive, and like dances and stuff like that.
All right, my name is Elizabeth Butch. I am a senior, and my role in Student Council, I am the co-president. As president, we try to make sure our students are doing what they're supposed to be doing on Student Council and make sure they're doing the best we can for the school and community. I also help Michaela with the event coordinator, I was the event coordinator last year. Some of the things we do as the event coordinator is schedule and plan the blood drive, homecoming coordination, homecoming pet fest, homecoming powder puff and volleyball, homecoming dance, sweet fest coordination, sweet fest dance, the blood drive, and food shelf rewards, and fun on the Sunday.
My name is Erica Gaby. I'm a senior and I'm the secretary on the student council. And my job is to take notes and keep track of the information said at all of our meetings.
What we would like to say is that we appreciate the meal options this year. For the go-to, we can grab a salad or we can grab a big lunch of, I think it's like a peanut butter jelly sandwich, Cheez-Its or a goldfish and some type of fruit or vegetable, and that has been really helpful.
Okay, first of all, I would like to thank you guys all for trying to keep us in session and working really hard. Us students really appreciate that. We didn't really like doing the distant learning, but being what was happening, that happens. I don't know, we just really enjoy being in the building and being in session, so thank you guys for that.
Another thing that students, including myself, are very thankful for is that we're having those 4 classes every day. It's definitely been very helpful. Only dealing with 4 classes, we're allowed to focus more of our energy into those 4 rather than 8 if we did the alternating A and B days still like we did last year. So I know a lot of people are very appreciative to only have to worry about those 4 classes in a day. It definitely reduces the stress load, especially in the times that we're in.
So to add on to Erica, we appreciate having more of our classes being, so our hard classes and our easy classes are mixed together in one quarter instead of having one quarter be super hard and then one quarter be easier. And it's just nice to have that balance.
Also, many parents and students really enjoy the Friday to be able to come in and work with the teachers on the stuff they've fallen behind on or are confused. We also really enjoy the time to come work in the Innovation Center, the shop time, all of that. We really enjoy that.
With the remote learners also, we're definitely seeing that there's a lot of inclusiveness and getting them involved still with everything in this school year. An example is when Student Council did all of our dress-up days, we found a way to include those remote learners by allowing them to submit pictures of their dress-up day outfits and teachers have also been doing such a great job at incorporating those remote learners into the activities in the classroom and definitely making them feel more involved and giving them that as best of an in-person experience as they can through a screen.
So we all appreciate the new classes that we have been offering, like the woodworking and innovation center. It's nice to have like new facilities and being able to show our creativity more. Another thing is like outdoor rec and survival, entrepreneurship classes. Those are nice to have to see what our future might be.
We're also very thankful that for our homecoming, given that we were unfortunately not able to have it in person as we have in the past, we were very thankful that we were able to put together that virtual one. It's not the same, but it was still so special to a lot of people and bringing that the like Paynesville pep and everything to it. And it was definitely, it brought up spirits, I'd say for sure. So thank you. That's all we got.
Can I ask a question? So, can we go back to the 4 classes versus 8 classes? So are you guys nervous at all about, if you would take, say, a math class first quarter and then maybe not having a math class till third quarter? Is that, have you given any thought to that, or what's your take on that, I guess is what I'm wondering?
Well, right now I had, first quarter I had stats, and then I have it again third quarter, and all of us students are kind of like nervous, and Mr. Heimerman did submit, what is it called? Not Quizlet, what's the other one called? Yeah, some study guide thing that we can go over all the topics we went through. So looking over that is gonna help, but I don't know what the third quarter will be like. We're gonna kind of have to do a study of what we did first quarter.
Okay.
Yeah, to add on to that, I am currently taking, my second quarter and my fourth quarter class loads are significantly more loaded and more difficult than my first and third quarter. In my second quarter, I have human body systems, macroeconomics, choir, honors English, and calculus. So given that my math classes and that English is broken up, it definitely, and I've talked to my classmates, a lot of us can feel pretty stressed out about that, especially when you think about the fact that we're fitting semester's work of classes or like that material into a quarter. So that can be sometimes stressful, but it's definitely taught a lot about time management. And if you manage your time well, it's very doable. It just can take a lot of extra motivation.
Sure. Okay. I just think it's interesting. It's always easy because I'm not taking classes, so I can have all kinds of opinions. It's the easiest thing to do. But it just seems so logical to me that the management and juggling of 4 classes versus 8 really logically in my mind clicks and stuff. So I think we need to just continue the dialogue because it'll be fascinating to see what happens as we roll into third quarter and how that transition goes and stuff. So interesting.
My question is, I appreciate you saying all the positives and the things you're thankful for that we've done. What are some things that you would like to see improved or changed that would help you guys out? I mean, that's what we're here for too. We want to hear everything.
Yeah. Do you guys have anything? So for me, what I've kind of thought about that is in regards again to the splitting up like college classes with that third and first and third quarter or second and fourth quarter. That I'm going to use calculus as an example again, but it is very difficult to every single day be learning new material and that fast pace. And yeah, it's very stressful having to manage that. And it definitely, I've had to use a lot of outside resources other than teachers and just stuff in the classroom to be able to understand and learn and teach myself what I need to know. And that goes in other classes too, not just calculus. And then breaking it up into first and third quarter, having that chunk of time where you're not even learning the subject. I definitely am hoping that classes have a period of time when you start up the class again where it's review and that you can kind of get back into the flow of things. But ultimately it's just that fast paced, that's what makes it very difficult in those higher level classes.
Sure. Thank you.
I was gonna ask a similar question, so I'll ask the first part of it. I'd say, out of everything we learned, you know, a lot of people are like, can't wait till we go back. But I think there are a lot of benefits that have happened this year. So if you could give like, what are your thoughts on something that we learned this year on how the way that education is happening that we would want to change moving forward? You know what I mean? We kind of shook it up, like it's different. So what are some of the things that you think actually really worked well and you would hope to see us kind of pull forward?
But like, I do like how this year, how we have 4 classes one quarter and 4 classes the other quarter. But at the same time, it is kind of difficult, what Erica was saying. But like, leaving that split is kind of nice, yes.
I really like having the Friday off. I come in here a lot on Fridays to finish up stuff in the Innovation Center, and I like to come in on the Friday, and I go straight to work after school, so I don't have the chance to come after school. So I really enjoy that, and I know my sister would really enjoy that too.
I also was gonna say about the Fridays, especially because if you have a test in the week and you don't finish it that day, you have that entire Friday to set up a time with the teacher, and it's, it gives you opportunities to get your work done if you couldn't in class during the week.
So you would prefer a 4-day week if that were a possibility, with the 5th day being extra?
Pretty much so.
Yeah. Even if we went back to full-time classes, 4 days a week?
I think so, yeah.
Nice thought.
So I will say today we have our first meeting to talk about the daily schedule. And we did do a survey with our staff on the possibility of continuing with the 4 classes. And so we have some good feedback from staff, and so we will be getting feedback from students. But today is our first discussion on that, and some of those same concerns about having class, you know, where you have it 9 weeks and then you don't have it and then you have it again, have come up with with our teachers, but they are overwhelmingly in favor of looking at the 4-class schedule, so that we're gonna be starting on that process today, kind of working through some of those kinks. I think once 3rd quarter starts, we'll have a better idea on what the impact is on the 9-week break for some of those classes, but teachers are really well aware of the fact that there's gonna be some review time and opportunities for students to kind of get reacquainted with some of those classes, so that'll be a big test for us.
Any other questions? We're good?
Thank you.
Thank you for taking time to come today. Appreciate it.
Then we have the middle school student representatives.
We're the middle school student council. I'm Grace Roberg, I'm the president. I'm Raina Spanier, and I'm the vice president.
And I'm Kaden Zorowski, and I'm the secretary of treasurer.
What we do is, so the classmates of each grade elect 6 representatives. And then the officer positions are held by 8th graders that have been on the middle school student council for at least 1 year. And then we do like projects like, we do the fall cleanup day. We kind of organize that. We help with 5th grade orientation, building tours at fall open house. And then we do middle school activities like the dances. We help set that up and organize that. Midwinter activity day, we help take pictures for the middle school memory book. And then spirit weeks and Christmas candy canes we hand out before Christmas.
Some student concerns, both positive and negative, that we have. So the food services, the meals on Fridays that they're giving out, I think a lot of people appreciate those, I think they just started doing that. And we also appreciate like the lunch options. We got a lot more this year, like with the salad and sandwiches also along with the main option. We also, I know we have been like asking for like new sinks, and we got them this year and we really like those. Some activities are, we would like to maybe have some activities after school for like, some kids just don't have like anything to do, and maybe they would like want some activities, but, and like some activities are like esports or regular sports, speech, plays, robotics, or anything like that.
And then for hybrid learning, like what's been happening here, it's nice to have 4 days of class like they said. And it's nice having the 4 days of like 4 classes each day, but it is also hard, as I said. Some kids like have a load of like all general classes, and then the next quarter they have like all electives. So then like evening that out. And for like online, some teachers keep you on, like not very often, but 90 minutes is a lot of time to be staring at your screen. So like if we had a set time for like 45 minutes talking and then like the rest of the time working on stuff. And then if we would go remote learning, most kids don't like it, so if we could avoid it. Set up days, so like if we did go remote, it would be nice to have like the Friday, like where kids could come in if they needed to talk to a teacher or finish up work that they didn't understand at home. Recording classes so that if you don't understand something, you can go over it by yourself, and yeah. Yeah, and then that's mostly it. And like technology, if they have an issue, they could come in and set time to fix that. Do you guys have any questions for us?
I have something to say. For the lunches when you're at home, it's kind of hard to to make your food for 30 minutes. You only have 30 minutes, so it's lots of times that's how long it takes. Or like when you have to put it in the oven and stuff, so that sometimes is hard when you're at home.
Any questions?
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mentioned activities after school. Have you thought about petitioning the governor of the state? Have you thought about, as a student council, this would be good practical governmental education, of putting together a petition and emailing it, or however you get it to the governor, telling him what you're feeling. Because that's not of our hands. And he's gonna be making some comments tomorrow, but, so I just say, it's nice to put something into practical use. Say, yeah, senior high as well. If more schools let him know what you're feeling, it might make a difference. And it'd be better coming from you than from us. They get enough from parents.
I hear from us all the time.
Any other questions or comments?
I'll ask a similar question, like is there something else, it sounds like that those 4 days, those Fridays are nice. Is there something else that really kind of sparked your interest that you hope we hold on to, that we've learned this year, that we could bring into non-COVID days? If you don't have anything, that's okay, I was just curious.
I don't really know of anything. I know the big lunches for like kids that don't go home to as much, like food at home, like maybe keeping those for the weekends, something like that.
Anything else? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Next on our agenda is combining polling places.
Yeah, it's not as exciting a content anymore, is it?
No, it isn't.
Yeah, funny how that works. All right. Combining polling places, this is an annual resolution that we do have to complete. The last time we did complete this would have been in December of 2018 in anticipation of the August 2019 bond referendum. I'm asking the board to act on this today. It's the same arrangement as what we used in August of 2019 for polling. Our combined polling place would be the Paynesville Area Center at 105 West Main Street in Paynesville. If we are going to run an election in 2021, we would be having polling hours from noon until 8 p.m. I do anticipate one of the first orders of business that the board's gonna have to take up after the first of the year is going to be addressing operating referendum as it is approaching time to expire. So I think there's a very real likelihood that we will be conducting an election in 2021, and we would use the same combined polling places as we did in 2019. Questions on the resolution at all?
So if there's no question, we would entertain a motion, a resolution establishing the combined polling places for multiple precincts and designation of hours during which the polling place will remain open for voting for school district elections not held on election day of a statewide election.
I'll move the resolution.
We have a motion from Jake.
I'll second.
We have a second from Cheryl. Any further discussion? This is a roll call.
Do you want to run through them or do you want me to?
Sure. Bruce,
Aye.
Rick,
Aye.
Cheryl,
Aye.
Maggie,
Aye.
Jake,
Aye.
Ross.
Aye.
Carried. Okay. Then we're gonna go to the world's best workforce.
This is a paper copy that is at your places. I just wanted to go through, Ms. Knoll is kind enough to join us as well. I think she has a couple of things she wants to point out additionally with this. So World's Best Workforce is an annual submission. There are 5 goal areas associated with World's Best Workforce that districts need to report on annually. As the thing that I want to call your attention to is when you get, excuse me, I got the wrong copy. When you get into this and we start reporting on district goals, due to COVID last spring, one of the things that did not happen is there was no statewide MCA testing for all grades throughout the state. And so that gets a little tricky because as we look at some of our reading and math goals, we were linking those to MCA data. So you will see that there are things on here that just say unable to report. And it is a statewide issue right now.
Do you anticipate that will happen again this?
So right now, there hasn't been any movement on it. The only thing that I would tell you is the federal government has opted to not do their NAEP testing, which is the National Academic Educational Progress Assessment. And so that's done every 2 years in reading and math. They have already announced that they are pushing that to next year. So that's the only one that's really moved, but as far as the actual compliance with MCAs is tied to a federal compliance statute, and so it would actually require the Federal Department of Education to be able to open up a waiver process in order to allow states to not have assessment.
Okay, thank you.
Otherwise, I'll turn it over to Ms. Knoll, and she may have some other
I
items
can
as
give you
well.
a little bit on that. There was a webinar yesterday afternoon with the Department of Education, Minnesota Department of Education, and one of the things that they said was we must move forward as if everything is progressing. And the big test that we're looking for that is going to come very quickly is going to be our access for ELs, so our English learners. And one statement that they made for that test is that one, their line was that one is going to be critical because there are a lot of things tied to exiting information as far as our English learners and the process that happens there. We threw a ton of questions at them and they said, we have plans A through Z and then probably about 18 more that we're gonna have, and whatever process we need to go to pivot to, we will do that, but as a DAC, so your district assessment coordinator, do all the work because you need to be prepared to press the button and go. We also asked those questions on test security. If we have students that are home and remote the whole time, how are we supposed to do that? And we don't know. Okay, so there are more I don't knows, or we don't have that information at the moment, than answers. We have another meeting on January 12th where they're hoping we have more guidance, but ultimately, nothing can be done until after January 20th. Okay? Our 5 goal areas, one of the things that Mr. Bullard had said is you look at the report, there's gonna be some that are going to say unable to report. The other thing that would be very good for you to know is last year, as we went with the World's Best Workforce Plan, we were already discussing the movement away from those standardized tests because they're a high stakes test and at one time, if you're not having a good day that day, it is very, very difficult. So some of the things that we have looked at and we're gonna get baseline information for last year, and it's gonna kind of be moved back that we get the baseline information this year, is use of FastBridge and using of MTSS and those benchmark measurements that give the students the opportunity to prove what they're doing for progress and then doing progress monitoring all the way through. We're also seeing that in that all students ready for school, we have that distinct advantage because we've added our threes program. So I think we had all of our students that we've at least had contact with. I think that was the discussion that we had. So the biggest thing that it looks very difficult for us is to close the achievement gap. Because that's where we still left it linked directly to the MCAs. We're going to have for the middle school and the elementary, the fact that we're gonna have MTSS and FastBridge data that will get the baseline information. Now, we think it will be more useful because with the MTAS and the MCAs, one of the big things is we test in March and April and they don't release the official results until August. And by that time, you have to have everything planned for that upcoming year. The other portion that goes with the World's Best Workforce is because we are part of an achievement and integration grant belonging to the Lake Wabagon Collaborative. That portion has to be reported. Our report, and I don't have the paper copy, but it may look like a last section is not completed on it, but we did not have to do that because we are not the racially isolated school district. That would be Melrose, and I'm not sure if it's, well, it didn't even print it, so they made it so it worked that way. But we are not that school district that gives the opportunity to have the achievement and integration plan that is put into place. We have tried very hard. We were in the last year of a 3-year plan, so 2017 to 2020. And the new plan was written for 2020 to 2023. And we linked everything, so it's going to be kind of that easy process. So we're not doing 2 completely separate things. Our big groups that we need to look at and focus on is providing that equity piece to our free and reduced lunch students. And also the one thing that a big push is coming, and I don't know the answer and not even gonna pretend to, is we have to have a discussion about providing equitable education for our students and looking at our student population and who's represented. When we put out a call for new teachers, we follow the equal opportunity employment laws. And I don't know what we do different to get that representation for some of our Hispanic students and some of our African American students. We're sitting at about 7%, and ideally, the state would say that 7% of our teachers should be representative of our school population. It's not just us, but we have to make sure that if some candidates are representative of those cultural ethnic groups, that somehow we encourage those applications. Any questions?
If you ever want more resources, so I'm just happen to be in a search committee right now, and so we have, on all of our search committees, we have somebody who's there for bias.
Right.
And so then we go through that training, and part of it is that we have to look at even where we're kind of extending what positions are open. And so like if you're always going to the same resources, you know, so there's a lot of different things you can do, but through the bias training, you know, she makes sure like the types of questions we're asking are just helpful throughout there. So it is difficult, I will say that.
And you know, just looking at our location, if somebody is in one of those racial or ethnic groups that we have, what are we drawing them to Paynesville with when you have the opportunity to have on either direction from us? And, you know, we're doing what we can, and the state keeps saying, well, you need to figure out a process, and it's not like we're saying don't apply or we're not gonna hire anybody that is ethnically diverse, but I don't know the answer on that one.
Any other questions at all about World's Best Workforce?
There's no more questions. Do we have a motion to approve the World's Best Workforce for 2020?
I'll make that a motion.
We have a motion from Rick,
I'll second.
second from Thomas. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both say no. Carried.
Thank you for all the hard work you do. It's appreciated.
You're welcome. Can I take 30 seconds? We have a group that is a PLC with our 7 mindsets, and because I was coming today, I thought I would get here sooner. We have just taken some time to put together a little thank you, and we used our innovation center and came up with a nice little sticker for our unsung heroes, because I don't think you guys hear the thank you either. So I'm just gonna hand them to you, and then I'm gonna be on my way. And there's no signature on it because it's from everybody. Yours. And would you give your wife hers?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Yes, there you go. Very close. Oh, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate all that you do.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you.
Okay, then we're gonna move to the next one is the second reading of policy 714 and 721.
So this is a continuation of work from November. 714 is our fund balance policy. At the November meeting, the discussion was to have that fund balance amount go from 8% to 12.5%. This policy has been posted and available in the district office. We have not had any concerns or questions voiced to us. It'd be my recommendation to approve 714 as the board amended it at the November board meeting. The second policy on here is policy 721. This really gives us our grant guidance as far as federal grants are concerned. Our largest federal grant right now is our Title I grant. After that, you would get into some special education pieces. There were two technical components of this that actually raised the grant amount limitations as far as how we had to procure services if it hit a certain threshold. The only thing that's happening in the recommendations and the change to this policy is to align our policy with what the current federal statute is. So again, it's been posted. There have been no questions, concerns, or comments. It'd be my recommendation to approve 721 as well.
Okay, and we have a motion to approve those two policies.
Aye, motion.
A motion from Thomas,
A second.
and we have a second from Cheryl. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Okay.
Opposed, say no. Carried. The second or the first reading is next of policies 806, 806.1, the management plan, and 807, and rescind 825.
I'll just start with the summary and then policy committee members, you guys can add in with this. Policy 806, crisis management policy, the conversation at the policy committee was to adopt the MSBA recommended policy. We would also then include our crisis management plan as the procedure manual for this policy. Right now, what the board has approved for policy is actually the plan. So you will notice that policy 806, the proposed policy 806, is a standalone crisis management policy. And that policy actually directs the creation of that crisis management plan. Then, as a procedure, you will see the crisis management plan. Policy committee was unanimously in favor of approving 806 as a policy, and then having 806.1, that crisis management plan, available as well for that. Policy 807, health and safety. Again, there was a very abbreviated piece to policy 807 with the health and safety piece. It is important for the board to have the MSBA recommended policy in place. And the reason for that is there is a large segment of that policy has to do with allocating resources and budgeting. In order for us to be in compliance with health and safety spending set up by MDE, it is important for us to have that, that language in policy. And then lastly, 825, naming of facilities. Policy committee discussed this. The naming of facility policies no longer, it's not, MSBA does not have a naming of facilities policy anymore. After some discussion, the policy committee was in favor of bringing that to this body to actually rescind the current policy 825. So there would no longer be a naming of facility policy at Paynesville area schools. So that's the 10,000 foot view of the summary of what the policy committee did at their meeting. And then we can have further discussion and policy committee members can add to that. Go ahead.
I just comment on 825. I think we looked at it and realized we don't know why this was even put into place. Obviously something happened in 2013 and somebody felt they needed it. But it really ties our hands. If somebody came by tomorrow and said, we have $10 million we want to give to do the football and the track and we want to name it after mom and dad, we'd have to say no. But it took $10 million. Not that we're going to get that, but you know, it really ties our hands. I think what we need to do is if something does come up, then we need to send it to committee and discuss it and bring it back to the board, but at least we have the option to do so.
It's a board decision regardless, and even the policy we're looking to rescind kind of almost said it in two different ways in there, that we're not going to accept it, but we'll consider it. So we can't really say it both ways in the policy, so it's just rescind the policy altogether and make it a board decision if a name is required within the facility.
Another part of it is like Matt said, if the MSBA doesn't recommend these policies, why do we have them? So we're trying to become more, minimalist isn't the right word, but how the policies we actually need to give us more flexibility. But this policy is just there, we don't really understand why, so why have it?
I think the history of this policy, Bruce, you were here also, was someone did want to name a facility at that time. And the board decided they needed a policy to say that this is our policy. And that's why it came about.
Yeah.
I don't believe it was a MSBA or anybody else's policy at that time. It was brought up ourselves for that reason, to put that in black and white so that it wasn't against that particular group. So I'm in agreement with what everybody's saying. This is just his history of where it came from.
We kind of assumed that probably was likely the situation, just figure, you know, it can be a board decision like anything else could be, and we can just say no. And it doesn't have to be an issue.
Yeah, like I said, just history.
Yep.
Any other questions at all about policies? Anybody want to offer any changes to what the proposed policies are? Otherwise, I would recommend that you guys approve first reading, and then as always, we would post and bring them back at the January business meeting for second reading and approval.
Looking for a motion to approve the first reading of these policies.
I'll make a motion to approve the first
Motion
reading.
from Maggie, I'll be a second. So second from Bruce. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both say no, carried.
Can I just ask a follow-up then? How do you want to proceed with the rescinding of policy 825? You can do that here today with a simple motion, second, and a vote. Or we can carry this entire policy piece forward to the January business meeting, and then you can take action on rescinding that policy at that time. Either one is acceptable. Some boards like to just have consistency with policies. If there's going to be policy change, it comes to the board at one business meeting, and then the following month it will come and there will be final action on them. but there is nothing that says you have to post or anything like that to rescind a policy. So it really is up to the board how you would like to move forward with that.
I'd probably do it all at one time personally.
Okay,
We'll just get it all done and then it will kind of match what's going on here.
okay, so we will bring that back as far as the January, then you're gonna have the 3 policies for approval, and then you're gonna have policy 825 for rescinding.
Yep, and we'll do it all at once.
Perfect, thank you.
Then we're gonna go to D, which is the first meeting of the new year and our organizational meeting. Matt, it looks like you're suggesting January 4th.
So January 4th is the first Monday in January. Clearly, we have 3 veteran board members that were reelected, and so it's not as if we're seating new board members. They're continuing another term. In the past 2 years now, the board has had a first meeting in January to do organizational items, elect a chair, vice chair, all of that. So the question really is, does the board just want to do the January 4th organizational meeting on January 4th? And then we would have our work session on the second Tuesday like normal and the business meeting on the 4th Tuesday like normal. If so, we do not have January 4th scheduled as a meeting right now, so this body needs to schedule that. And if you're going to do that, I would recommend that it is just an organizational meeting. There's no other business that could be conducted at that time.
I think that's what we should do. It used to be we had 2 meetings. We didn't have the first meeting, an informational meeting, and so then it was business. We just did it all at that time, but I think the way we're set up, I think to get everybody in positions,
Yep.
that'd be a good time.
So is that a motion, Bruce?
Yeah, so how January 4th work for everybody at this point? Okay, yeah, it's a motion that January 4th for our meeting, and should we do it at 6 o'clock? As normal?
Yes.
Okay,
I'll second that.
and we have a second from Rick. Any further discussion? I want to add something right here. So, in some of these positions, I'm just gonna add a personal thought. I think it's a good idea for certain positions to move around so that everybody has a chance to experience different parts. We have treasurers, we have secretary, we have chairperson, but I think just keep an open mind to that. That it doesn't always have to be the same. We don't want to fall in the rut that we're trying to get away from in the school, where we do it the same way all the time. That's not really the idea for growth. Growth would mean that we have interest of others, so.
I'd agree. I appreciated being on some of the same committees for a couple of years just so we can kind of roll through, but I would love to experience other opportunities too, to see what else everybody else is seeing.
Okay, so.
So Matt, would you have a list of where we're at from last year?
Yep, so to follow that up and to piggyback on that, I will send out the spreadsheet with all the committees. It'll have a very short description, roughly how many times they meet a year, all that stuff. I'll send that out to everybody. If you could just go and put an X in the boxes for the committees that you are interested in. And then we'll bring that to that January 4th meeting, and at least we will know people's interest. It should facilitate the conversation a little quicker. Okay, the only thing I would advocate, and I think we talked about this last time around, so all of our contracts in the district are gonna be up on June 30th of 2021. So I would just ask that whoever is assigned to any of the negotiating committees, that those negotiating committees hold until those contracts are done. I don't know when, what the timeline will be to get those finished, but the last thing I would want is 3 board members to start negotiating, and then January of 22 rolls around and we're not done with the group. And now we have 2 new board members that weren't in on the negotiating process. So that would be the only one I would ask that we are gonna be committed to. They will see the entire negotiating process for whatever group they're tied to through until there's a ratified contract.
With that spreadsheet, you run a column of currently sitting?
I can send you the 2020 committees, and then I'll send you the spreadsheet that you guys
Or
can indicate.
can you do it on one spreadsheet?
I think we can.
Add the columns so we
Yep.
can look at it and say, okay, well, I don't have to look at this anymore.
Yep, absolutely.
Keep one document.
Okay, any other, I think just so we don't come to the meeting in the cold and are scrambling, so. Okay, All in favor of the January 4th at 6 o'clock for the organizational meeting? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Carried. Okay,
Ask another, sorry, I'm still thinking about that. Can we all see to the different committees, like that people, like if we can respond before that meeting? So let's say I wanna be on something, but Bruce really wants to, then I can be prepared, be like, you know what, Bruce, you can do that versus having to do some of that.
Yes, you guys will be able to see who's.
So we'll be able
here.
to see so that we can say, okay.
Yep.
I
Shared
can do that.
Yep, and you'll be able to see how many board members are needed on the committee, and, yeah, if there's already 6 board members that are on it, or they're interested and you're not compelled to it, I would hope you wouldn't put your name down, but, yeah, you'll be able to see all
So
that.
the Google Docs were waiting.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you.
okay. And then, we are right now where we would entertain a motion to close the meeting. Am I right on our?
Can we just, review these upcoming meetings?
Go ahead.
So we have a couple things going on here. I talked about that activities complex meeting, 5 PM on the 21st. January 12th would be the work session then for January. January 26th will be the business meeting. We will now add January 4th as the organizational meeting. So that's what I see on the agenda for January. And now we'll take a motion to close the meeting.
We have a motion to close the meeting for the superintendent's evaluation. So I have a motion from Rick,
Second.
a second from Thomas. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Carried. So we are closing at 2:27. Is that what the computer say?
Yep,
26.
226. Yep.
26. So do I have
I'll move that.
I have a motion from Rick to reopen the meeting.
I'll second.
I have a second from Cheryl. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Carried. So we discussed the superintendent, with the superintendent evaluation and provided input for the coming year. It was a very good meeting. Thank you. Then we have one communication item from Rick.
Maybe a suggestion. First of all, I think we meet with the kids again in May or something like, and I think it's one of the highlights of the year for all of us when they come in. And it's unfortunate this year we only have a couple of them when we normally have a wider. My only concern, and I don't know how we would change this, is when the student council is one that comes in and shares with us, we get a very specific segment of the student population. And we're not hearing from a whole nother, other segments of the student population. And I don't know how we could change that. And I think you know what I'm saying. I think these kids that came in today are all gonna go to college. They're on the school board, or the student council, but there's a whole large group of people out there that we're not hearing from.
Yep, so first of all, I will say that I do believe our student councils are fairly representative of our student body. So these 3 are here to talk today because I asked for 2 or 3 to come, just so we could abide by our space expectations. But student council as a whole are the ones that sat down and developed what they're talking about. So I do believe there is a wider representation than the people that were the talking piece today. That being said, I think the reality is what we need to do and what this board has done with moving forward with creating a district advisory committee that we're going to get rolling out. To me, that is a body that we can actually strategically engage more students, specific parts of our community, specific key partners in our community, that type of a structure, that's really how we can start developing dialogue, a two-way dialogue, not only with students, but also with parents, but also with other forms of local government, maybe particular business entities in our district that we see as strategic partners. There's a whole host of entities that I think we can get to buy into that district advisory piece. And then that district advisory committee would actually have a full calendar of work, that would be a sounding board for a whole host of issues. And so I think that's the next logical step, is rather than doing this world's best workforce where we have a committee that we try to get parents involved in, try to get students in, they usually meet once a year. Well, who buys into meeting once a year? It becomes a box to check, a rubber stamp. Nobody buys into that. So I think that's moving forward with this district advisory committee. To me, that is a way for us to really start engaging and seeing that. I guess, Rick, you know, and if the expectation somehow is to hear from a broad cross-section of students, yeah, that's a good question. I'm not sure I necessarily have an answer on that. I think part of strategic planning and some of the data that you guys are gonna look at, you're gonna look at student data from a broad cross-section of students. And I think that can gain some insight as well. But I don't necessarily know what that sounding board is to hear from other students or different student groups.
I think the benefit of hearing, like when we heard about like esports or just the things that are happening, it makes us better advocates for the school. Because then we can go and be like, oh my gosh, like, did you know that we're doing this? And I think it fosters good, like, just conversation. So the more things like that, whether it's different students or like,
But that might be.
whatever it is, I agree, like, to me, that makes me excited about this work the most, and it helps us. I mean, we're supposed to, like, we're the advocates of this district, not the only ones, but I love that because it's like, gosh, it just feels what we're doing and it connects us when then people, we're gonna be talking about operating a referendum. Like, that's the ROI on the investment here is
Right.
the
Yep.
students and the amazing things that they're doing. So however that's integrated, I really enjoy to.
Well, maybe in addition to what we heard today, we need more of that. And I'm thinking more of the kids that are over there doing the welding and they're, these are the kids, I'd like to have them, sampling of those kids come in and talk about what they're experiencing.
Right, or the students that do start interning at Cold Spring or something like what, because I just think it just really helps us like lead these conversations in the community. And be
I
excited
think
about
that's
it.
an item we add to our informational meeting.
Hey, is it possible that next meeting happens in someplace like the auditorium where if we're still, or if we need to do an auditorium type, where if we need to space out more or have more people, there could be a podium that they could present at from the audience and, I don't wanna say work on the stage, but you know what I mean, like.
I think the thing that people have to also be okay with is, I'm not sure that student is going to want
Want to present.
to come and present
True.
to you.
Yeah.
I think we need to have a little bit of, I get the value in hearing from them, and I also get the frustration of, being on a board, you're an entity as one, and you conduct your business here. So I understand that, but I'm not going to compel any student to come and talk to a board. And I think there's that element of this as well. I can assure you, the reason why these student council members are the ones that were here today is because they were willing. And that's not to say that they are the only student council members that helped put together that material, but they're the ones that were willing and comfortable to do that. That's not everybody. Not everybody's cut out to go and do this and then get put on YouTube and have people watch it over and over and over and critique everything that is being said. That's not for everybody. So I just think we need to have that balance.
Right, and I'd be fine with it being like a faculty member, like hearing Jesse Rasmussen come in here, I was like, that was amazing, Mr. Wolf at the district technology.
Yeah, and I think those are the things we have to
I
just
think
stay
that's-
committed to at those work sessions, that the board continues to hear kind of a diverse cross-section of things that are going on. Can we incorporate the student voice into that as much as we can? Absolutely, as much as they're willing and wanting, yes. But am I gonna force students to come and present to a board? No. And the other thing is, am I gonna tell students what to say when they're in front of the board? No, I'm not. I don't feel like that's the appropriate thing for me to do.
No.
So I think it's a little bit of a balancing act, but I understand
I
what
don't
you're.
think we ever force kids, but on the other hand, we just put how many dollars into this section over here? And if people came up to me on the street and said, well, how's that working out? What's going on over there? I wouldn't really know what to say. But if somebody comes in and tells us, this is what's happened, this is what, compared to what we were doing, this is what we're able to do, and or maybe sometime we have a board meeting where we actually go in there.
Let's say, do another daytime board meeting, I guess, can we schedule a tour ahead?
Yeah.
The good news, you want your board, the board wants to know. And that's the fine line too, like, it's not to get in the minutia to like critique things, but for me, it's more of, it's honestly a curiosity of, I wanna know because I talk to people about the awesome things we're doing. And I want people to, say yes to the next referendum, and I want them to be excited, and I want our community partners to be excited. So it's kind of a selfish like curiosity, not that I'm looking to critique anything and I know that is probably nerve-wracking to some faculty and staff members, seeing board members come in like, oh gosh, what are
Yeah,
they?
you want to throw red flags up?
Right.
Let's start having board members
Right.
come and do
And I
a tour as a board to go sit in on someone's class.
That would be,
I can tell you what kind of mid-management issues you're gonna run into.
that would be,
And you're gonna need to hire somebody to reduce the stress level.
yes, and I get that. And so it's more of like who's open to come or share.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think again, let's keep moving everybody to these work sessions, and let's keep getting that cross-section of what's new, what's happening. And I think we can certainly put a bug in those faculty or staff that are coming to share what they're doing, that if they can bring a student or incorporate a student to do that and to try and encourage that. But yeah, I mean, I hear the concern and I can acknowledge that. It's just, I think we need to maybe vet some of these things before we're just gonna say, yeah, let's charge ahead.
It's also exciting for us to be able to speak to these things. Like when we've been in other meetings, not even related to school, and they start talking about something or another, and they say, oh, our school has that. What school are you from? They're just amazed at some of the things that we have here. And so many community members don't even know about it. And I know a lot of the stuff we don't know about because we're not here every day. It's just interesting to us to be on top of it it's exciting for me to know what's going on and how the kids are reacting and where we're going.
Very interesting topic. I think it's something that we can look at our informational meetings and maybe move forward with different things as we desire. So if there's nothing further, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Since this is the last meeting in December with our regular business being said, I move the board do now adjourn sine die for the year.
Okay, we have a motion from Dick,
I'll second.
from Thomas. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Carried.